As we saw earlier, Japan's Prime Minister Shinzo Abe and most of his cabinet took a fairly low-key attitude about the anniversary of World War II. For example, Abe did not go to the controversial Yasukuni Shrine, where several war criminals are memorialized. He said he did not want to inflame tensions with neighboring countries. And Japanese public opinion is divided about Yasukuni. To tell us why, we have Andrew Horvat with us on Skype. A journalist, Horvat is also a longtime resident of Japan. He's also worked with historians in Korea and Japan to try to come up with a common narrative of the war and help reconcile the two nations. Welcome to LinkAsia.
Hi.
Andrew, Japanese public opinion has shifted in its attitude toward China. We reported last week on a poll taken by a Japanese NGO, and that poll showed 9 out of 10 Japanese dislike Chinese. Can you give us some idea of the background to this shift?
As you remember, in 1989, there was the Tiananmen incident or massacre. And at that time, the Chinese leadership became very worried that young Chinese were embracing democracy, and that this would result in instability and in an undermining of the strength of the Communist Party. So a patriotic education campaign was started, and in a large part, this patriotic education campaign was focused on the 1930s, when Japan was running amok in China and engaging in a lot of, atrocities, including Nanjing. And so the image of Japan, of course, naturally declined. And so the Japanese, who had been very friendly towards China and who had given the $60 billion in aid, suddenly felt quite betrayed. And that is actually the historical background to the present situation.
Now, how about Korea? Do Japanese also feel Koreans have given them an unfair image?
I think the situation with Korea is a little bit more complicated and, shall we say, variegated would be better. Korea underwent a ruthless period of colonial domination. But that period was, ruthless at some times and actually quite, shall we say, how can I put it, harmonious at several levels at other times. And because, again, the rise of nationalism in Korea has resulted in a filtering out of the commonalities and the strength and the stressing of the suffering. And if you look very carefully, for example, the economic foundations, the foundations for Korea's economic progress were laid during this period of colonial humiliation. And that is very difficult for many Koreans to remember. And so it's natural for people to want to filter that out. That happens in many countries as well that have experienced colonial domination. There's this feeling, nobody wants to remember that they themselves participated in this period of national shame.
From your experience in dealing with the issues around World War II, will Abe's decision to stay away from Yasukuni affect public opinion in Korea and in Japan?
Well, it'll certainly prevent flaring up of anti-Japanese feelings. Whether this is going to help in the long run, I think that's far too early to say. The real example of successful reconciliation is in Europe, and it took 20, 30 years of non-governmental efforts on the part of mostly civil society groups and scholars and just ordinary people getting together. And that's really what's missing out here in Northeast Asia.
Andrew Horvat, thank you.
Thank you.
Andrew Horvat has lived in and reported on Japan for 3 decades.
Now on U.S. airwaves, a global channel of uncompromising stories. World news, documentaries, entertainment, and culture. Link TV, connecting you to the world. For more information, visit linktv.org.